My name is Daniel, and until a few months ago, I would have told anyone that I had a normal childhood. We were not wealthy. We did not live in a big house. My dad spent long days repairing cars in a small garage. My mom worked at a quiet neighborhood bookstore. They worked hard every single day, and they always made sure I had everything I needed. Looking back, I realized they sacrificed more than I ever understood. Every birthday was special. Every Christmas felt magical. Every family dinner ended with laughter. If someone had asked me to describe my parents in one word, I would have said perfect. Or at least that is what I believed. There was only one strange thing. Whenever I asked about my earliest childhood memories, everything changed. I would ask simple questions. Do you have any pictures of me when I was little? My mom would smile. Then she would quickly change the subject. We will look later. Later never came. Sometimes I would ask my dad, what was I like when I was 3? He would laugh for a second, then suddenly remember he had work to do. At first I thought nothing of it. Parents forget things, old photos get lost, life moves on. But as I grew older, I realized it was not forgetfulness, it was avoidance. Whenever my childhood came up, both of them became different, quieter, more nervous, almost afraid. I noticed it, but I never pushed too hard. I trusted them. Why would I not? They were my parents, and I believed parents never hide something that could change your entire life. I could not have been more wrong. Everything changed the week my father had surgery. My father came home from the hospital on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. The surgery had gone well, but the doctor told him to avoid heavy work for at least a month. That meant the garage would stay closed for a while. I decided to take time off from work and stay with my parents. I wanted to help them however I could. For the first few days, everything felt normal. I cooked dinner, I drove my father to his follow-up appointments, I helped my mother around the house. Then, one afternoon, my mom asked if I could clean the basement. We have been meaning to do it for years, she said. It could really use some organizing. I did not think much about it. The basement had always been full of old furniture, dusty boxes, broken lamps, and forgotten memories. I grabbed a flashlight and started cleaning. Hours passed. Dust covered my clothes. The room smelled like old wood and damp concrete. As I moved an old bookshelf away from the wall, something caught my attention. One of the wooden floor panels looked different. Its edges were cleaner than the others, almost as if someone had replaced it years ago. I knelt down and brushed away the dust. There were tiny scratch marks near one corner. Someone had opened it before. My heart started beating faster. I don't know why. Maybe it was curiosity, maybe instinct. Using a flat screwdriver, I carefully lifted the panel. It came up much easier than I expected. Underneath was a small space hidden between the floor beams, and inside was an old wooden box. It was covered in dust. The corners were worn. The lock had turned dark with age. It looked like it hadn't been touched in years. I just stared at it. Part of me wanted to put everything back exactly as I found it. Another part of me needed to know the truth. I picked up the box. It felt surprisingly heavy. The lock was not difficult to open. With a quiet click, it opened. At first, I expected to find old family photographs, maybe letters from my grandparents, maybe forgotten bills or documents. Instead, I froze. The first thing I saw was a tiny hospital bracelet. The name printed on it was mine, but the date did not make any sense. Under the bracelet was a birth certificate. I unfolded it carefully. My hands began to shake. Some of the information did not match the copy I had at home. Then I noticed several old photographs. They showed a little boy who looked exactly like me, but I had never seen those pictures before. Why had my parents hidden them? My breathing became heavier. Then I reached the bottom of the box. There was a bundle of letters tied together with faded blue ribbon. Every envelope had the same name written across the front. Emily. I whispered the name out loud. Who is Emily? I searched my memory. No aunt, no cousin, no family friend. I had never heard that name before, yet someone had written dozens of letters to her. The room suddenly felt colder. Questions flooded my mind. Why would my parents hide these things? Why was this box hidden beneath the floor? And why had they never told me about Emily? I looked toward the basement stairs. The house was completely silent. For the first time in my life, I felt like a stranger in my own home. I could not stop thinking about the box. For the rest of the afternoon, I carried it back to my room and read every letter again. None of them were addressed to me. Every single one began with the same words, Dear Emily. Some were filled with love, others were full of sadness. A few looked like they had been written through tears. The more I read, the less I understood. That evening, we sat down for dinner. The room was quiet. My father slowly ate his food, while my mother asked me about work. I barely heard her. The box was all I could think about. Finally, I put my fork down. I found something in the basement. The room went silent. My father stopped chewing. My mother's smile disappeared. What did you find? She asked softly. I looked directly at them. A wooden box. Neither of them said a word. There were old photos. Silence. A hospital bracelet. My father's hands started shaking. And letters written to someone named Emily. My mother's face turned completely pale. She looked at my father. He looked down at the table. Neither of them answered. Who is Emily? I asked. Still nothing. My voice became louder. Please tell me the truth. My mother covered her face with both hands. A few seconds later, I heard her crying. Not quiet tears, deep, painful sobs, the kind someone carries for years. My father closed his eyes. I hoped this day would never come, he whispered. What are you talking about? I asked. He looked at me with tears in his eyes. Daniel, we never wanted to lie to you. My heart was racing. Then why hide everything? My mother finally spoke. Because we were trying to protect you. I could not understand. Protect me from what? She took a slow, shaky breath. There was someone before you became an only child. I stared at her. What do you mean? You had an older sister. The room felt like it stopped moving. I could not believe what I had heard. I had a sister? My father nodded. Her name was Emily. Everything suddenly made sense. The letters, the photographs, the hidden box. But one question remained. If I had a sister, where is she now? Neither of my parents answered immediately. My mother's tears returned. My father reached for her hand. Then, with a trembling voice, he finally said the words that changed my life forever. Emily died when you were 3 years old. I could not breathe. I had lived for 26 years without ever knowing she existed. I could not believe what I had just heard. Every memory I had of my childhood suddenly felt incomplete. I had a sister? I asked, hoping they would tell me they had made a mistake. My mother slowly nodded. Yes, she whispered. Emily was 4 years older than you. I looked at the photographs from the box. For the first time, I noticed something I had missed before. In the corner of one picture, there was a little girl holding my hand. She was smiling. So was I. How could I forget someone who looked so happy beside me? Why do I not remember her? I asked. My father took a deep breath. Because your mind protected you. He stood up and walked to the living room. A moment later, he returned with another old envelope. Inside was a medical report. The paper had turned yellow with age. "It belongs to you," he said. I carefully unfolded it. The report described severe emotional trauma after a tragic accident. My heart pounded. "What accident?" I whispered. My mother wiped away her tears. "It happened on a Saturday afternoon. The four of us were driving home after visiting your grandparents. It was raining heavily. The roads were slippery." She paused, struggling to continue. "A truck lost control around a sharp corner. It happened so fast, we could not avoid it." The room fell silent. My father continued the story. "The crash destroyed the front of our car. Your mother and I survived with injuries. You survived too." I looked at him, afraid to ask the next question. "And Emily?" He lowered his head. "She did not." My chest felt tight. I could not speak. For a long moment, no one said anything. Then my mother reached across the table and held my hand. "You saw everything, Daniel. You were only 3 years old. The doctors told us that the trauma was too much for a child. They said your mind had buried those memories to protect itself. They warned us that forcing you to remember could cause serious emotional harm. So we listened." My father nodded. "We packed away every photograph, every letter, every reminder. We moved to another city. We wanted you to grow up without carrying the weight of that tragedy." Tears filled my eyes. For years, I had believed my parents were hiding the truth because they did not trust me. Now I realized they had been carrying unimaginable pain every single day, not because they wanted to deceive me, but because they wanted me to have a chance at a happy life. I looked back at the photograph of Emily. For the first time, I did not see a stranger. I saw my sister, and I wished I had known her just a little longer. For a long time, none of us spoke. The silence was not uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence that comes after a truth too heavy for words. I looked at my parents. For the first time, I noticed how tired they looked, not because of age, because they had carried this pain for more than 20 years. Every birthday, every holiday, every family photo, they had remembered Emily, even when I could not. I finally broke the silence. "So you never stopped thinking about her?" My mother shook her head. "Not for a single day." My father looked toward the window. "Parents never forget a child." His voice cracked. "We just did not want to lose another one." Those words hit me harder than anything else that night. They had not hidden the truth because they did not love me. They had hidden it because they loved me too much. For years, I believed I had been robbed of my past. Now I realized my parents had sacrificed their own peace to protect my future. I walked over to my mother and hugged her. She immediately began crying again. Then my father joined us. The three of us stood there without saying a word. Sometimes there are no words strong enough. The next morning, my father asked if I wanted to visit the cemetery. I nodded. An hour later, we stood in front of a simple stone. Emily Carter. Below her name was a short message. "Forever loved, forever our sunshine." I gently placed the faded blue ribbon from the box beside the flowers. For the first time in my life, I felt connected to the sister I never got the chance to know. I was not angry anymore. I was not confused. I was simply grateful. Grateful that my parents had done what they believed was best. Grateful that they finally trusted me with the truth. And grateful that Emily's memory would no longer stay hidden. Before we left, my father placed his hand on my shoulder. "I think she would have been proud of you." I smiled through my tears. I hope so. Life has not been exactly the same since that day. Sometimes I still wonder what my childhood would have been like if Emily had lived. Sometimes I wish I could remember her voice or her laugh, or even one real memory. But I also understand something now that I did not before. Not every secret is born from betrayal. Some secrets are born from love, from fear, from the impossible choices people make when they want to protect the ones they care about. If my parents had told me the truth when I was a child, maybe I would not have understood. Maybe it would have changed who I became. I will never know. What I do know is this: the hidden box did not destroy my family. It finally brought us back together. And every year now, on Emily's birthday, the three of us visit her together. We tell stories, we bring flowers, and we make sure her name is spoken out loud, because no one deserves to be forgotten.